The morning light hit the mirrored glass of Coal Industries Tower, cutting across downtown Manhattan like a blade. Inside, the lobby hummed with routine, shoes clicking, elevator chimes, and the soft percussion of ambition. Executives, interns, and receptionists moved like clockwork, faces fixed on phones and futures. By the entrance stood James Adeyemi, the man who saw it all and was seen by none. Mid-40s, tall, composed, with the kind of stillness that draws silence without asking for it. His navy blue security uniform was ironed sharply, his name tag gleaming. Every morning he arrived 30 minutes early, wiped down the metal detector himself, and ensured every corner camera worked perfectly. He didn't need to speak much. His gestures spoke for him, a respectful nod here, a calm smile there. People liked him, but not many knew him. To most, he was just the guard. At 8:27 a.m., the revolving doors whooshed open. In strode Richard Cole, tall, white, mid-50s, with an expensive suit and a confidence that came from years of people never saying no. His assistants trailed behind him like shadows, arms full of papers and coffee cups. "Morning, Mr. Cole," James greeted, his tone polite and professional. Cole barely looked up. "Sir, may I scan your badge, please?" James asked, stepping slightly forward. Cole's stride slowed, irritation flashing across his face. "You know who I am," he said sharply. "I own this building." "Yes, sir," James replied evenly, "but it's standard protocol for everyone to scan in." Cole stopped. The room seemed to be still. People at the reception desk glanced up. The CEO turned, squinting at James as though seeing him for the first time, but not really seeing him. "Protocol?" he repeated, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Do you even know what that means?" James didn't flinch. "It keeps everyone accountable, sir," Cole scoffed. "Accountable, right." He leaned closer, his voice lowering, but his tone sharp enough for others to hear. "You're lucky to have a job like this, you know that? I've seen your type. Stand around, pretend to be useful, smile so people think you're smart." The words landed heavily. A secretary froze mid-step. Someone whispered. Cole wasn't done. "You're a guard. Just scan the badges and stay quiet. Don't think you're running the place." James's expression didn't change. He simply lifted the scanner. "Please, sir," he said calmly. Cole laughed. Short, cruel, unnecessary. "Unbelievable. A security guard is giving me orders. What's next? You'll tell me how to run my company." He waved dismissively, brushing past James. "Stupid," he muttered under his breath, loud enough for the marble walls to echo it back. The lobby fell into a hush. James stood still. No anger, no response, just silence, the kind that commands respect, even from those too blind to notice it. He scanned the next employee's badge as if nothing had happened. But the room had changed. The assistants avoided his eyes. One woman muttered, "That was uncalled for." James simply smiled faintly. "It's all right, ma'am," he said. "He's had a busy morning." She nodded awkwardly, unsure what to say. As the elevator doors closed behind Richard Cole, a few people turned toward James. There was something about the way he carried the moment. Quiet, measured, untouched, that left a strange impression. He didn't look humiliated. He looked grounded. Moments later, the front desk phone rang. James answered. "Good morning, Coal Industries Security." The receptionist mouthed, "It's for you." He handed over the phone, stepping aside, but as he stood there, the whispers began. Small at first, like static. "Did you hear what he said to the guard?" He called him stupid. Imagine talking to someone like that in public. The building was a skyscraper of whispers, and by 9 a.m. the entire staff knew what had happened. Still, James carried on. When the morning rush faded, he walked to the side window, taking in the skyline, the blue horizon, the hum of taxis, the pulse of a city that didn't care who you were unless you could afford to be noticed. He pulled a small notebook from his pocket, the same one he carried every day. Inside were handwritten phrases in 11 different languages, each page neatly organized, a mix of Mandarin, French, Arabic, Russian, Swahili and more, words of gratitude, phrases of diplomacy, proverbs that had once helped him calm furious ambassadors and comfort frightened refugees. He whispered, testing his fluency, "Merci pour votre patience." "Habari yako," "Xiexxieni de Bangju." Every syllable was perfect. The same lips that Cole had mocked now moved with the fluency of nations. James had once stood inside the grand halls of the United Nations, wearing a translator's headset instead of a security earpiece. Back then, his voice had bridged worlds. Now, he bridged the silence. A young intern passing by stopped and smiled. "You're always so calm, Mr. Adeyemi. How do you do it?" James looked up, closing his notebook. "When people talk without listening," he said gently, "the best response is peace. It makes more noise than anger ever could." She smiled shyly and walked away, unaware of how prophetic those words would soon become. In a world obsessed with power, humility is often mistaken for weakness, but sometimes the quietest man in the room is the one holding the power to change it. And if stories like this move you, stories that show dignity outlasting discrimination, then take a moment to subscribe, because on this channel, every story reminds the world what true strength looks like. Upstairs, the CEO barked orders about an upcoming global meeting, unaware that the very man he'd insulted would soon be the only person capable of saving it. Back downstairs, James returned to his post, unbothered. He straightened his tie, took a breath, and opened the next door for a visitor with the same grace he'd shown all morning. The humiliation didn't break him, it revealed him. And as the sunlight shifted across the lobby floor, illuminating his reflection in the glass, it was almost poetic. Because while the world looked down on James Adeyemi, it would soon look up to him. The clock strikes 11 a.m. Upstairs, inside the top-floor conference room, tension hangs so thick it could be cut with a knife. The company's biggest deal of the year, a multi-million-dollar partnership with an international consortium, is already falling apart before it even begins. The glass table stretches across the room like a battlefield. Delegates from France, Japan, Kenya, Brazil and China fill the seats, men and women in tailored suits speaking over one another in fragmented bursts of language. The air is a storm of miscommunication. At the head of the table sits Richard Cole, the CEO, gripping his pen so tightly it might snap. His forced smile wavers as his interpreter fumbles another sentence. A French delegate leans back, clearly irritated. "C'est inacceptable," he mutters. The Chinese representative shakes his head. "You misunderstand," he says through another interpreter. "We agreed on 15%, not 50. Across the table, confusion multiplies. Papers rustle, voices overlap. What should have been a celebration now looks like a funeral for the company's reputation. Richard's voice grows louder. "We had agreements in place, Lamata. Why are you people changing the terms now?" The Kenyan diplomat frowns. "Because you don't understand what we said." A ripple of embarrassment spreads through the room. An assistant standing near the back looks pale. She rushes toward the door, muttering, "I'll find someone, anyone, who can fix this." Moments later, the elevator doors open in the lobby, and she appears, flushed and frantic. "Does anyone here speak Mandarin, French, Swahili, Portuguese?" Her voice echoes off the marble. James turns, calm, collected. "I can," he says. She stops mid-step, blinking. "You?" He gives a small nod. "I can help." She hesitates, then waves him along, desperation overriding disbelief. "Come with me." As the elevator ascends, the lobby hum fades into silence. Inside the narrow space, James stands tall, adjusting his uniform collar. His reflection stares back, not a security guard, but a man reclaiming something long buried. The numbers tick upward, 30, 40, 50. The double doors swing open with a quiet click that somehow slices through the chaos. Inside, the conference room looks like a battlefield. Papers scattered, translators arguing, and executives whispering in frustration. The delegates from 5 different continents are seconds away from walking out. Millions of dollars, years of negotiation, all slipping away. And into that storm walks James Adeyemi. Before we continue, if you're drawn in by stories that flip power, dignity, and justice upside down, take 2 seconds to subscribe. It helps us tell more stories like this, stories where silence fights back and wins. Now back to the boardroom. When James steps through the doors, the chaos hits him like a wave. Dozens of voices arguing, translators talking over one another, Richard shouting for order that won't come. The assistant points timidly. "This is the man I told you about." Richard turns and freezes. His eyes narrow, recognition sharp as a blade. "What is he doing here?" he snaps. His tone drips with disbelief. The same arrogance from the lobby, now weaponized again. James doesn't flinch. "Sir," he says evenly, "I heard there was a communication problem." Richard scoffs. "Help? You're a guard, not a linguist. We have professionals." But before he can finish, a delegate across the table interjects in Mandarin, impatient. If this meeting continues like this, we're leaving." James steps forward and replies to him in flawless Mandarin. The room goes still. Then he switches seamlessly to French. "Monsieur Dupont, je crois qu'il y a une erreur dans la traduction précédente. Il s'agissait de 15, pas 50. Then to Portuguese, then Swahili, then Russian. Each phrase lands clean, fluid, and exact. The translators stop mid-sentence. Every delegate looks up, astonished. Even Richard's pen falls from his hand, clattering against the glass table. Within seconds, the temperature of the room changes. Tension dissolves into stunned silence. The delegates lean in as James continues, shifting languages with precision, clarifying points, rebuilding bridges that had burned only minutes ago. A French investor laughs softly in relief. Enfin, quelqu'un qui comprend. Finally, someone who understands. James nods, calm but commanding, translating agreements, softening cultural nuances, restoring respect where confusion had festered. Richard can do nothing but watch. Every word James speaks dismantles the image the CEO had built, the image of the stupid guard. Now, that same man stands at the center of the table, the anchor holding the entire meeting together. After 30 minutes, the once chaotic discussion transforms into coherence. A delegate from Kenya gestures to James, asking him to verify a clause written in legal French. James reads it once and explains in English with surgical precision. No hesitation, no error. Another representative from Brazil laughs lightly. "Where did you learn all this?" James smiles faintly. When you listen to people long enough, language comes easy. Laughter ripples through the table. The tension that strangled the room at the start is gone, replaced by ease and even admiration. The same executives who once looked down on the man at the door now watch him as if he's the only person keeping their empire from crumbling. And he is. When the final signature hits paper, a quiet applause breaks out. The delegates stand, shake hands, and exchange smiles. The deal is not only saved, it's stronger than before. For a moment, everyone celebrates. Everyone except Richard. He sits back, watching James talk with the delegates like an equal. Every polite laugh, every handshake feels like another mirror shattering inside his pride. The same man he called stupid now commands the respect of world leaders, effortlessly. The assistant, still near the door, whispers to another staffer, "Who is he?" Down the long table, Richard forces a smile, clapping weakly, pretending control. But inside, he knows. He didn't save the deal. James did. When the meeting adjourns, James gathers the translated documents, hands them to the lead delegate, and steps back, quietly, respectfully, like he'd only done what was necessary. But everyone in that room knows they just witnessed something extraordinary. As James turns to leave, one of the diplomats calls out, "Mr. Adeyemi, you must join us for the next round." James simply bows his head. "If you need me, I'll be downstairs." One of the delegates nods, smiling. A man like this should not be wasted at the door. Even Richard can't respond. His authority, his arrogance, every layer of superiority, stripped away in front of the people he was desperate to impress. The applause resumes, this time louder. The assistant who brought James in stands near the door, watching in awe. Her eyes say what everyone else is thinking. How many more people like him have we ignored? James finishes the last translation, hands over the corrected contracts, and quietly steps back. He doesn't linger for praise, doesn't demand an apology. He just gives a respectful nod and heads toward the exit. But as he walks away, every eye follows him. The French delegate whispers, "That man saved this company." The Chinese representative replies, "Not the company, the man's soul." Outside the boardroom, the hallway feels brighter. James exhales, the weight of the moment catching up to him, not as pride, but relief. For years he's been underestimated, overlooked, reduced to a uniform, but now for once the truth has spoken, in every language he knows. Behind the glass doors, Richard stares after him, silent, humbled, and afraid to admit what he feels, shame. James presses the elevator button and waits. His reflection stares back. Not the guard who was humiliated that morning, but a man who just shifted an entire company's destiny without raising his voice. The elevator dings. He steps in, straightens his tie, and lets the doors close. For the first time all day, the building feels quiet again. James Adeyemi walks out the same way he came in, steady, silent, powerful. Behind him, murmurs follow like a trail of stunned respect. The humiliation from the morning has flipped. The man once called stupid just saved a corporation with nothing but grace and brilliance. And that is only the beginning. If stories like this pull you in, stories where dignity outshines power, then pause for half a second and hit subscribe. We tell stories that remind the world what true respect looks like. All right, back to James. The story doesn't end here, because when humility walks out of that room, the people left behind have to face themselves, and what happens next will change everything. The sun has barely risen the next morning, but the building already feels different. Yesterday, the marble lobby echoed with quiet humiliation. Today, it hums with whispers, stories spreading floor to floor like wildfire. Did you hear what happened yesterday? The security guard, James, he saved the deal. Apparently, he speaks 11 languages. No way. 11? I saw him. The man's a genius. Every department has a version of the story, some exaggerated, some precise. But the truth is undeniable. The man everyone overlooked became the reason the company didn't collapse. Upstairs, behind glass walls tinted with pride and panic, Richard Cole sits alone in his corner office. The blinds are half drawn, the light harsh and unforgiving, the same way his conscience feels. On his desk sits the finalized deal, the one James saved. Richard stares at the signatures of international leaders and realizes they aren't celebrating him. They're celebrating the man he called stupid. He runs a hand through his silver hair and exhales shakily. His arrogance has always been armor, but now it feels like chains. Downstairs, James arrives quietly, the same way he always does. Except today, people look at him differently. The receptionist greets him with genuine warmth. 2 employees in suits hold the elevator doors open for him, and when he steps inside, everyone gives a respectful nod. He doesn't gloat, doesn't even smile differently. He just carries himself the same way he always has, with quiet dignity. But every step he takes now feels heavier, like the world has finally noticed the weight he's been carrying all along. If you've been watching this far, it's because stories like this move you, stories where truth outlasts arrogance. Take 2 seconds, hit subscribe and stay with us, because what happens next is the part everyone forgets. By noon, an email lands in James's inbox. Mr. Adeyemi, the CEO, would like to see you, 12:30 p.m. He stares at it for a long time, not out of fear, out of reflection. He's been called into offices before, but never like this. At 12:29, he steps out of the elevator, but not in his security uniform. Today, he's wearing a dark grey suit, perfectly fitted, sharp, composed, the kind of suit that says, "I belong here," because he does. He knocks once. "Come in," Richard's voice calls from the other side. The CEO's office is quiet. No assistants, no distractions. Just the 2 of them, the man who wielded power carelessly and the man who carried it with grace. Richard looks up, visibly uncomfortable. "James, please have a seat." James doesn't. He stands, calm as ever. "I'll stand, sir." A long silence stretches between them. Richard finally exhales. "I owe you an apology," he says, his voice tight. "I was wrong yesterday, in every possible way." James listens, eyes steady. Richard continues, forcing the words out like they've been stuck in his throat for years. "I've led this company for over 2 decades. I thought I understood people, but I clearly don't. What you did yesterday saved everything we've built, and you did it with more dignity than I deserve." James lets the silence breathe before he speaks. "It's not about what you said," he replies softly. "It's about what you chose not to see." The CEO lowers his gaze, defeated. There's nothing left to say. After a moment, James nods politely. "If that's all, sir." But as he turns to leave, Richard stops him. "There's one more thing," he says. "I want you to take a new position, Director of Cultural Relations. Full benefits, your own team. You'll oversee our global partnerships and diversity initiatives. You've earned it." James pauses, stunned for the first time. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he studies Richard. The same man who humiliated him in front of dozens of employees, now sitting there stripped of pride, reaching for redemption. Finally, James says, "I'll think about it." And he leaves. That afternoon, HR sends a company-wide announcement. Effective immediately, James Adeyemi has been appointed Director of Cultural Relations. The building erupts with applause, some even standing to cheer when he walks through the lobby. But James doesn't walk like a man who won. He walks like a man who has never lost his center. One of the assistants from the board meeting approaches him, eyes bright. "Sir, I mean Mr. Adeyemi, congratulations, you deserve it." James smiles faintly. "Thank you, but please, just James." As the day fades, the company's PR team begins preparing its next diversity campaign. But this time, something feels different. It's not forced. It's not corporate performance. It's sincere. The centerpiece of the campaign features a simple photo. James is standing at the lobby entrance, hands folded, welcoming guests. Below it, the caption reads, "Greatness doesn't need titles to be seen. It just needs truth to be recognized." The image goes viral within hours. That evening, as the building empties, James stands once again in the same spot where everything began. The marble floors gleam. The glass doors reflect his calm face. But now, his name tag reads, James Adeyemi, Director. He looks out toward the street, the city alive with motion, and lets the hum of it all sink in. People rush past him, busy, distracted, powerful, and yet somehow, he's the still point in the middle of it all. The man who never raised his voice, never lost his dignity, and still changed everything. He straightens his tie, gives a final nod to the night guard taking over, and steps outside. For the first time in a long time, the air feels light. Not because he proved anyone wrong, but because he proved himself right. The camera lingers on his face as he walks down the sidewalk, quiet, composed, free. When power insults humility, the truth will always speak, in every language.